Welcome back. We're still watching Daybreak on this 25th day of March 2025. Oh, 25. Okay, I had not noted that. In studio now, I have Kennedy JSS, who is an advocate of the High Court, but also an education analyst. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
You're late. Wilson Susion, former nominated MP. Good morning. He's been here.
And former SG for that.
And former SG NAT. Okay, that's important. It's important. Dr. Manyo Manyasa is the Executive Director of Our Agenda. Good morning.
Good morning, and apologies, I'm late.
Sure. And then we have Joseph Murray, who is a career advisory expert. We're here to talk about the transition from junior secondary to senior school. And I was reading a few comments of what Kenyans have said online, especially on Facebook, when they heard that you are going to have this discussion. Let me just sample some more of what they said in regards to this conversation. This is Kiprono Vin. You're saying that 844 was the best education system, straightforward and effective, but now we have CBC, which is just confusing everyone. Honestly, the person who created CBC isn't far from the one who brought COVID-19. Both have made life harder. Ooh, okay. Faustina Rehema, 844 was the best education system ever. Math should not be an option. Katana Charo, why use learners to access the success or failure of an education system? This system has a lot of gaps. Philip Kiprotich To, I think the government is taking education casually at the moment. No textbooks have been supplied to senior school in readiness for next year. They like last-minute rush in supplying. No laboratories at junior schools, and science practicals are supposed to be undertaken. And then who else? Okay. So those are the comments, and there are so many others that you will find on the platform as well as on X, the comments which you'll be sampling later on. But now this morning, we're also coming from the conversation that happened some 2 weeks ago about the transition guidelines that were released by the ministry in what was supposed to be a stakeholders meeting attended by different people, including those that work for government, saying that what should happen. And in the next few weeks and months, we should be seeing learners in schools deciding what pathways they should pursue. Is it STEM, meaning science-based? Is it arts and sports science, which should account for about 15%? Or should it be the social sciences, which is 25%? So how do you make that decision? And we're here to talk exactly about that, what the guidelines are saying and the effectiveness of these guidelines when it comes to making those decisions for parents, teachers, and learners. Dr. Manyo Manyasa, let me begin with you on this, especially after reflecting on those guidelines. What do you think is this that we must do so that we get it right for once? Because the transitions we've had before, from the pilot stage to full rollout, from grade 6 to grade 7, they have never been smooth. What must we do this time?
Thank you, Sam. There is one thing that needs to be changed in the guidelines as provided. The guidelines as provided are recategorizing schools into either 2 pathway schools or 3 pathway schools. We have schools that are incapable of offering 2 pathways. So we need to have a 1 pathway category of schools. And that 1 pathway category of schools should be a school that will only offer social sciences. Mm-hmm. Why am I saying this? Because we are assuming right now that every school in this country is capable of offering STEM. We have a lot of sub-county schools that do not have a single STEM teacher posted by TSC, do not have a single
Including
lab.
At the secondary schools?
Yes, and I can give you names. We have. So starting to assume that those schools are going to be able to teach STEM is not a sensible idea. We have schools. Let's look at the E's that we have been getting in physics, math, biology. Yep. Where have they come from? Those schools that have been producing those E's are incapable of offering STEM. Because the learners who have gone through those schools, most of them have survived by performing well in the humanities. And then getting a C or C+ and making something out of their secondary education. If you take a child to a school that has been producing E's in math, E's in biology, E's in physics, into STEM, you have put them into a tunnel to a dead end. Because now you have restricted them to study only subjects that that school is incapable of offering. So let us accept that we have schools which do not have facilities, do not have the personnel to be able to provide STEM. And so let us have a single category, a single pathway category of schools.
Right.
Besides the 2 category and then the 3. We provided a memorandum to the ministry last year and we told them, please leverage TVET institutions to provide the technical track of STEM. Because these TVETs, 1, they have facilities, 2, they have tutors who are trained, and we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by taking the senior school there. Why? Because we will not need to start running around like we have always done, trying to find tutors for technical subjects, which we don't have right now, and trying to build workshops and equip, which is not easy, in schools that we hope will provide this track. And then we can also enable those technical institutions to change their reputation.
Right.
Because now we will have students coming from there going to university. We will change their reputation around TVETs as being places for people who have failed, who are going nowhere. Because we will be having people coming from TVET institutions.
Did you get a response to your proposal?
Responses come in many forms, but we did not get a direct response to that. And the response that has come, which is in the form of these guidelines, does not factor that in. So it's a response in a different kind.
Silence, you mean?
Yeah.
All right. Now, as this happens, the assessment for a pathway, every learner will be subjected to the following. Learners will be guided to reflect on pathways, personal experiences, and future. These are grade 9 learners. They're how old? 13 or 14?
12.
Questionnaire, they're 12. Okay. Teachers will use structured tools or questionnaires to assess career interests of the learners. Teachers will use career inventories to evaluate learners' skills and strengths. That is at career inventories. Then observation checklists. Teachers will use checklists to assess learners' behavior, skills, and learning preferences. And then there will be career portfolios. Teachers will use these portfolios to assess the learner's appropriate pathway that they should pursue. And there are different areas that will be considered from interest to skills and talents and the values of that learner exhibits. And all these will be used to determine what area they should go. What do you think of that?
One, I've been on record personally telling this nation that CBC was a bad idea from inception, but we are here. These guidelines, I will liken them to a house owner who is doing very good interior in a house that was founded on a very weak foundation. These guidelines are not practical at all. We must accept as a nation that we have a problem in our junior secondary schools. 1, learning is not going on. 2, the teachers taking...
What do you mean learning is not going on?
Learning is not going on. 1, because there are no facilities, infrastructure to support the learning. 2, there is no properly equipped human resource. Those children are expected to take arts and sports science pathway. The children that have not been taught by any trained teacher of music, they have not had any trained teacher of PE. You now want them to be guided by a teacher of English and literature on how good arts and sports science is. So we are transiting into senior secondary on the wrong assumption that learning has been going on in junior schools, which is not the case. Number 2, government is making a very critical mistake through these guidelines. They are introducing what we call hybrid schools, meaning that every boarding school, which is assumed is going to offer the 3 pathways, is properly equipped to offer those pathways. And instead of government equipping sub-county schools, which form a majority of our secondary schools, in fact, they are more than 80%. They are opening a day wing in boarding schools, it will have two effects. One, we are going to lose our sub-county schools. If you open up a day school at St. Mary's Mumias Girls, Nyapora Secondary will not have any student. All students will want to go to the properly equipped boarding schools. Why can't we equip our existing sub-county schools to offer at least one or two pathways with ease? These guidelines are not practical to the extent of choosing or even choosing the careers at 12 years, at 13 years. How informed are you to make a decision on career choice? In the past, under 844, students were technically making that choice in Form 2, end of year Form 2, at the age of about 15, 16. But they are still making wrong choices when you choose a subject. And number 3, who tells government that if you are taking social sciences, you do not require mathematics? If you are taking law, for instance, you don't require the basics of mathematics. In law, at the postgraduate diploma, we have a very serious course called accounting for lawyers. Has government consulted with professional bodies to tell them to also do away with the units which have mathematical components at the training of the professional level? So
how much math is enough before become a lawyer?
Basic math up to Form 4 is enough. Because I am a lawyer, I did math up to Form 4. But if you are doing math up to grade 8, you will not be able grade 9, you will not be able to manage the basics of the mathematical law that you require. Even if you are trying to have a career in Uber driving, to make a decision on which route to use to reach your destination faster, how to overtake, you require some basic mathematics.
You don't think by grade 9 you have acquired basic math?
We've been there before. You have not acquired the basics in mathematics. You would rather make math compulsory and not examinable at a particular level. What we've been doing as a country is punishing a whole lot based on mathematics. We have very many successful lawyers who had grade E in mathematics. We have very many successful doctors who never studied CRA. So it doesn't mean that by doing mathematics, it locks you out of certain professions. It only equips you at a basic level to pursue certain professions with ease.
Okay, I see you not...
Several things I need to clarify.
Yeah.
One, I hear people romanticize too much about 844. First of all, let me make a clarification. 844 is not a curriculum, it was a system. We could have implemented CBC in 844. But we made a decision to change both the curriculum and the system. But we could still have changed to CBC within 844. So 844 is not a curriculum. We had an outcome-based curriculum. Outcome-based curriculum means that you determine what should be attained and you try to get everyone to attain that. That curriculum became so costly to Kenya because it was wasteful. And Mwalimu Sosian will tell people what a system being wasteful means.
Right.
We have produced 48,000 E's last year. Yeah. No one tells anyone what happens to those 48,000 E's. And these 48,000 E's are children who are now being branded by the system as stupid when they are not. It's just because they've been forced to do what they may not be able to do and not allowed to do what they could do and excel. So it was necessary to change the curriculum. And CBC was well thought out. CBC has only been very poorly implemented. Very poorly implemented because of things like what you see in the headlines today, mistakes in the past regime, starting to implement without a plan. Mistakes by the incoming regime, by advisors like Mwalimu Sosian here, who kept telling them, we will abolish CBC. I said, please focus on planning how to implement CBC when you come into power, because it is going nowhere. They kept saying we will abolish. Because of that, government lost focus. We have housing levy, which should have been an education levy. If it was an education levy, today we have enough classrooms, today we have enough laboratories in all our schools, and will not be having these challenges that we are having. The problems we have in the transition is exactly what HS has mentioned. There is no learning happening in junior school. And because there's no learning happening in junior school, the learners are going to be totally unprepared for senior. if we prepared learners in junior school properly, they don't need to study math in senior if you are not going to take a math pathway. Those who went through the A-level system know that you did not do math in your A-level if you are not in STEM. And the math you had learned in O-level was sufficient. This curriculum is not the one that we have come from. The level of math taught at grade 9 is not the level of math taught in class 8. And that is one of the mistakes that were being made when we were doing the transition, and people are saying primary school teachers can teach this because it is. It is not. If you look at the curriculum and look at where it is pitched, the level of math being taught in grade 9 is almost Form 4.
And is the math in grade 8 the same as standard 8?
No.
No.
It's not. The math in standard 8 is in grade 6. If you look at the curriculum.
So junior secondary, not 1, 2, 3, but grade 7, 8, 9 is a bit of an advanced math.
Very advanced.
Yeah.
If you look at the designs, it's very advanced. The only problem is that right now there is no learning happening, because when we did a survey last December, we only had 21% of the teachers in our junior school being STEM teachers, and 79 were humanities. And 35% of the schools did not have a single STEM teacher.
So to be a lawyer,
for
by
that,
grade 9 you have gotten enough.
You have gotten enough. By the way, I don't understand when people keep telling me you need math to be able to drive an Uber, and 70, 80% of our Uber drivers here are class 8 dropouts.
Okay.
I don't understand that.
I don't know how you measure that, but I'll get to you, Murai, on career guidance. But first, Mheshimiwa Sosion, your comments about these guidelines and how practical they are to bring the parent and the teacher together to support the learner.
I want to say the guidelines are not cast in stone. They should be subject to relevant amendment based on research studies from different people. And of course, people will have different views. But what is it that we were looking for in CBC, and what does our education underpin in terms of manpower development? That we should not lose it. So that then we should not mount an education system that is discriminatory, that some pathways are inaccessible, that exacerbates inequality. And I think from what Manyaza is talking about here, the difference that is poor preparation and whatnot, it speaks to hurried implementation of this program. But now we've implemented, we are in grade 9. These are a few things that needs to be done now, very urgent. A proper monitoring and evaluation of the rollout and implementation of the curriculum at grade 7, 8, and 9. That is summative. It is going to give us gaps, because you can't roll out a curriculum without proper monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. That then is going to guide on how the transition is going to be.
Has it been happening?
You can't have the guidelines without a report. You can't.
Has it been happening?
It has not been happening. That is why I raised
but monitoring is current.
That is why I raised from the very beginning, during the CBC rollout, that it was not done professionally. Now you can see in the front page something again on infrastructure. But then what must be done is proper monitoring and evaluation report. And there has to be what we call summative evaluation of JS level. So that then as we proceed to the next level, what are the genuine gaps, not the political and academic conversation that we have. And the president gave a leeway for review. The ministry can review. And through the charter which is signed. And we have not been advising on other things like what the chair is talking about. And we did not advise for the abolishing of CBC. Nobody made such a statement.
Which charter did he sign?
Yeah, education charter that is signed on 23rd of June 2022.
Who
and
signed?
In the president.
Okay. You know your
and
point.
Bullet number 15, yes. And I would share with you. The bullet number 15 talked of the curriculum being subjected to extensive review, appreciating the knowledge-based education system that we've had over the years, and appreciating the 21st century competence, skills, and value-based education that we do very extensive conversation. Part of it is this transition. It must be subjected to further scientific and meticulous consultation so that we rectify what must be rectified. Initially, CBC envisaged to have pathways in all the schools. Why pathways in all the schools? To avail options to students all over the country. That is how it was supposed to be. Okay. So the preparations into it should have been the training of teachers and reconfiguring the school's infrastructure to accommodate the same. You see, we should be talking about now seeing schools equipping laboratories, workshops for electricity classes, others for home science and the rest. We should be having that done. And when we talk of some schools not offering, then it means it's discrimination. We even want to regress further.
But do you even have the resources in terms of human resource to supply these teachers to every other school?
Well, we've made that mistake. The human resource were not.
That's what I'm saying. Even if we're to build the infrastructure you're talking about, you don't have the trainers.
And that is a tragedy. We didn't train teachers for the pathways as a country. So what do? Now you can see the limitations. We've been forced some schools to offer. Now all schools will offer minimum 2 pathways.
Yeah.
And STEM will be compulsory in
STEM is a must.
because STEM is at 60%. And why STEM? If you look at Africa and Asia, for example, Gituku, Asia focused on STEM education and invested in STEM education. And if I can talk about Korea, for example, and it's good for Manyasa, the teachers in Korea are the top students in the exam, so that the A's in Kenya should have been taken up for teaching. And 57% of parents would like their students to join teaching. And that is why they've built a very efficient teaching force. And STEM education is almost compulsory to all students because that is an industrial country. And when you talk of human manpower, you must align the education towards that direction.
Right.
When we now talk as a country, and during 844, maths was made compulsory. And not just compulsory, pure maths up to Form 4. And we shifted from general science and shifted from physical science to pure science up to Form 4. What has been the impact? Some of the strongest, well-grounded manpower that are also doing very well all over the world. That's a fact. We must accept that.
Okay. I hear the aspiration.
So that then as we move towards this transition, we must build on the gains that we've had over the years. We should not regress.
Right.
And that is why there needs to be some conversation. Like, for example, if we talk of maths being compulsory to STEM, that's okay, and being optional to others, I don't think it is right.
Is it optional or is not available?
It is all... up to grade 12 is still basic education.
No,
and that's still foundational subjects.
For social science, is math available? I thought it's not.
Math should be available.
Math is available for business track. There is a business track in humanities. For that track, math is available. For languages and literature, math is not available, and it's not
necessary. Is it the
necessary.
same math as accessed by STEM? Or it's
yes,
a different kind
it's math.
Now,
okay.
Now, Sam, this is what should happen.
Let's first hear from Muraya, because like you find, we may talk here, but at the end of the day, there's a decision to be made, and it's not waiting for all these things to be sorted out. Parents are dealing with this issue, learners the same, and teachers. What is it that they have to do to determine which pathway to follow? Knowing previously the pressure has been on even why people cheat in exams is because they want lucrative courses at the university. What must they do to be real with themselves, with what is available, their aspirations, but what they can handle as well?
Some have been on the ground because I visit schools. Actually, from last year, November to this year, I've assessed more than 10,000 students through psychometric, because even when employers are doing the aptitude test, they want to see out of the pool of qualified professionals, who is the best. And this is what we are saying. Can we use the same tools that are designed for education purposes to determine these interests? Because if I have a personality on conventional, it means that I really love numbers and working with mathematics. So that field, despite my grade, it might be the delivery method from the school, because learning is about the 4 parts of the brain. We have the cerebral right, the limbic left, the cerebral left, and the limbic left. So if those areas, the teachers are concentrating on one area, then it means that they are teaching one person in class, because we are saying that we are nurturing every runner's potential. So what is my potential? This is what we want to identify so that we can nurture something that is there. Take an example for me here, and I'm privileged to be with my teacher here, Dr. Manyasa. He taught me economics as first year.
Right.
But now, if someone...
How was he? Carry on.
If someone had taken the time to nurture and grow us, I would not have done the wrong course. Because I did the wrong course.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I taught you the wrong course.
And
What do you mean? I did the wrong course in the university because...
He came to university.
So,
because
it's not the fault of Dr. Manyasa. It's your placement that led you to him.
Yes.
So you studied economics?
I studied finance.
Finance?
Yes.
What should you have studied if you look back?
I just wanted to be a Catholic priest.
Okay.
I should not have joined the university. But because I got a good grade, everybody believed that you can't do anything else apart from going to the university. Do we have monarchs in the university? No. And my parents knew. But now, we are not blaming anyone here. In that BCom, somebody would have nurtured and identified that I should have done marketing instead of doing accounting and finance. Because that's the field I would have felt I have more energy in. That's the field where my personality suits.
Yep.
So this is what we are saying. If we identify the personalities and interests of these runners, we can be able to align them. Because there is a lot of mismatch. We have so many graduates who are roasting maize. Why? Because they are believing in employment instead of employing the knowledge or deploying the knowledge and to become an innovator. Now we are talking about competency. The competencies that are supposed to be in CBC, we have 8 competencies that are there. Critical thinking, problem solving. We have running to run. We have self-efficacy. How do you set your goals? How do you achieve them? So what we are saying is, let us not create wastage from the system. KCSE, the release, created 600 and something thousand waste that did not go to the university. Because when we said only these people qualified to go to the university, so it means the rest of the people have to start hustling, and I'm happy that...
But those that go to mid-level colleges...
But I'm happy Dr. Manyasa is saying that we will elevate the TVET value, because if you go to TVET, we used to think that you are a failure. But we never thought that TVET was for technical courses. Because if you are very good and gifted with your own hands, you should join TVET so that you can be taught how to use your hands. And this is what we are saying in CBC. Let us train 3 things. Let us train academically, spiritually, and skill-wise.
So, a learner will be required to choose a pathway.
Yes.
What is this that they must do at the home level?
First, they are the observable traits that the learner can showcase. They are the practicals and projects they have been doing. These practicals and projects, if the learner is guided well, some of them would identify, what am I good at? Maybe I was the best in my school with agriculture. So it means that area, in future, it can become a career in the university. So this is what we want to identify so that we start aligning people to where they can function best. Because when we are saying about 3 tracks, and because we are saying we cannot identify the pathway, some, without identifying the career you are going to do.
Right.
It will be useless to join a pathway if you do not know what's the end product. So we are saying, can we first of all identify the career so that we can identify the subjects that will take you to that career, so that we can identify the track that carries those subjects, and then we can join the pathway. So for me, I'm saying, can we reverse engineer so that we look at the end product, who are you going to become? Does your personality support that? Do you have interest in those subjects and those areas of running? Then you can make it. And that's why the government is saying, we are going to introduce a questionnaire, a psychometric one, and the schools can do one, and the teachers can also observe. And some from the sample population that we have been able to assess, it is aligning. You have a personality of social, realistic, and enterprising, and that person is the captain of the football. That person is also in drama club because of the social nature, and they are doing very well in pre-technical where business is.
All right, I'm looking at the learner personality and interest. There's a tool, or rather a description of a tool. Placement will also take into account learner's interest and aptitude. And learner's personality and interest assessment outcomes will be used to calculate the cluster weight for the tracks. So all the pathways will be taken into consideration. The tracks, for instance, under arts and sports science, you'll be graded based on your learner personality, learner's interest, and then that is cluster weighted. Then social science, language and literature is one of the tracks. The other tracks is humanities and business. Assessed based on the learner's personality, the learner's interest, then the cluster weight is found. And then the STEM, there's pure science, there's applied science, there's technical science. All those other things that are considered. Yes, Kennedy, especially on helping the parent, that school community to arrive at these decisions without raising a lot of controversies, because there are many parents that may say that they want their children to go through STEM and not necessarily what they are capable of.
And they have said that before, Sam. I think what you've just read is too ambitious, and it is too early for a learner at that age to make such a decision. Some, Dr. Manyasa will tell you that even at the universities, in first year, the first 2 weeks, the universities allow students what we call interfaculty transfers, because you will have been admitted to a course at that particular age, and after 2 weeks experience, you realize that I did not intend to become a teacher. All I wanted to become was a priest, like my brother said.
Oh, is it?
And you change.
Yes.
You are allowed to change. So universities give that provision.
No, is it an example that's what you mean?
Yes. No. It is true. You are allowed to change.
No. Tell you. That you wanted to be a priest.
No. Me, I wanted to produce congregants. He wanted to be a priest. Now, the problem we have in this country, we want to get ideal situations and make regulations and policies based on our ideal imaginations. We want to go STEM as a country from those guidelines. 60% STEM, 25% social sciences, 15% sports and art sciences. What is the corresponding investment we are putting in this? If we are going 60% STEM, it means that funding for education must reflect that particular aspiration. Today we are going 60% STEM without releasing 100% capitation to schools, without releasing 100% grants to school to equip the STEM. Today, the universities do not have any instruction on training manpower to implement these pathways. We have not seen any university that is now training teachers of music in large numbers, teachers of science. And some today, if you asked teachers of home science who are not employed but are registered by Teacher Service Commission, they will not fill this room in the entire country because they are employed upon graduation. We are going to have some pathways that will be hard hit. How many schools today are offering building and construction? There is an assessment going on throughout this country, especially in boarding schools, on how prepared they are. And government is making very good proposals to the principals and boards of management. We need you to have this number of laboratories. We need an extra field, without telling them where they will get funds to do this. If government invested in the pathways, if government invested in education today, 100% commitment, we can realize about 60–70% of our CBC. Parents today, as we speak, do not even understand what CBC is all about. They cannot even guide the grade 7 learners on how to take their assignments. Even the mathematics you're being told about. My own child, the grade 1, 2, 3 mathematics, I am unable to guide because the approach they are using for that mathematics is not the same approach that we are using. In addition, for example, I just see them draw lines, and then they count the dots as additions. So I have to learn. I learn first as a parent before I teach my students. So parents are being taken through hardships. So we've left it to the mothers to sit with the children, learn the basics of mathematics, and help them do assignments.
But is your role to teach your child under CBC?
Is to guide.
It is to guide, not to teach. Teachers are supposed to teach. Ours is to guide. Okay. But we don't have the capacity. As schooled as we may look as parents, we lack the capacity to guide them. And then parents have the propensity of asking learners to choose career pathways that have money. They have the money attachment, not the commitment.
That's not a career job.
Yes, I want my child to do medicine because medicine will give good returns. So most of the parents will send their children to STEM without realizing, one, that their abilities and their interests are not in STEM. They'll be guided by other things. These guidelines must provide a provision for the change of pathways once you've joined and you think that things are not working the pathway you've chosen.
Dr. Manyasa, I almost called you Mweshmua. Dr. Manyasa, as also reflect on what should be the role of a parent in the implementation of CBC?
Several things. One, first, I do not agree with the ab initio decision that we will send 60% of the learners to STEM and 25%. CBC said we will nurture every child's potential. Until we have the first cycle get out of grade 9 and we see which pathways they choose and qualify for, we do not know what percentages will go where.
Yeah.
So we cannot start to draw and say we will send 60%. What if we find only 25% are interested and are demonstrating capacity to go to STEM? So we shouldn't be demarcating those lines this early. Number two, CBC as envisaged was supposed to enable constant interaction between the learner, the parent, and the teacher, so that they can together, first of all, identify the potential in the child, identify the interest of the child, and guide the child appropriately. Yeah. We made a big mistake when we hired interns to teach junior school, because interns, one, they're inexperienced themselves, and Mwalimu will tell you they're inexperienced, so they're not capable of guiding children. They do not command the respect of parents that will be able to convince a headstrong parent who says, my son must go to STEM, that your son is actually most fitted for music. Yeah? It requires someone with a caliber that can engage such a headstrong parent to tell that parent, I know you want STEM because that was your ambition and it never happened and you want to realize it through your child, but we have worked with your child and this is where your child is strong. And this is the evidence that your child is strong and interested in this area. So that is missing. The third thing that is missing is that for our public schools, the teachers have too many learners to be able to pay attention to identify the interests and the talents of the children. So we need to work with, let me say bluntly, we have sacrificed the current grade 9 that we have. So can we start to put in place measures that will make the sad situation that currently obtains not to be the permanent situation, so that we can progressively start to say that junior school will function as envisaged, because junior school is the most important segment of this curriculum. Okay. It is where we make and break children.
Yes. Mheshimiwa Susan, I'll give you an opportunity. First, let's take a look at the feedback that has come to us at Citizen TV. Kenya Sam Gituko, the hashtag to use is Citizen Daybreak, and also you can write to us on Facebook on our page. This is Bob Jamwa. You're saying that the sad reality is that no one, not the teachers, parents, education officers, and pupils themselves understand the new model of education, CBC, leave alone transition from JSS to senior school. Efforts in futility, you say. Bobo Tieno, the transition from JSS to senior secondary is another time bomb to explode, if not handled professionally, because most parents and even learners aren't sure of the pathway to take. Okay. That's why we're having this discussion. So next one, you're saying that parents and grade 9 learners are still in the dark with very little information about what's ahead in 9 months' time. Selection of senior schools are yet to be done, and all that goes along with the selections. Who will rescue us from this agony? I think he's talking about choosing the pathway and eventually choosing the school. Peter Gesura, making math optional in senior school is a joke. Majority of courses in the university are dependent on mathematics. Engineer Lazaro, good number of schools still improperly equipped to match the number of students. Even learning will never be easy with the limited equipment and skilled manpower. Transitions guidelines should be in phases. You mean phase. Silas Kiptum, STEM has mathematics, so why remove M which is a basic in almost every subject in our schools. So, I mean, there's that entire confusion about what is happening to math. Is it being removed? Has it always been the plan?
So, yeah.
What happens? How much math do you need to succeed in whichever career, even if it's not in STEM? The role of parents. I'm looking at some documents that were shared by the Minister of Education, I think back in 2019 or thereabout, about the general roles of the parent in CBC. And I look through, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 roles. None of them says that one of the roles of the parent is to do homework. But they are saying several things like providing basic necessities, protecting your child from physical and emotional harm, instill and nurture morals and values, teach and guide children to make the right choices and make them aware of consequences. I think that's like where we are now. And many others, including discuss observed character, behavior, and indiscipline issues regarding your child with teachers and take necessary action. How many parents would do that? Discussing indiscipline with your teacher. What would that mean for your child? Engage in peaceful and prompt resolution of conflicts that may arise. Get involved in planning, development, and decision-making process of school activities. How do you like that? Making decisions, especially for those small trips that they may take. And then take part in school activities such as academic clinics and talent. So those are the roles of a parent as described. Wakili Echesa, I've not seen why you need to learn math.
But they do. It's now parents who are doing the homeworks for the learners.
I think they shouldn't. As per these guidelines,
yeah, that is why those guidelines should be reviewed. What was so ambitious and what cannot work, we must accept. What cannot work, then we have to drop it. Number one, I must stand for the students of grade 9, that then they are not a waste, and they should not be allowed to be wasted by mistakes over systems. If there are mistakes, let us establish the mistakes and gaps. If they are unable to choose the pathways, then they must be given an option of flexibility. This is a very delicate security situation about the future of the children. That's why, number one, the president allowed review of the process, so that then the leadership at the ministry and all of us, we should be able to find an avenue then to amend all inconveniences and weed out within the CBC, like the role that we've indicated about the parents. If it is so excessive, some of them should be weeded out. Actually, we must have a curriculum that is easy to understand, easy to implement, easy for teachers to implement, exciting for learners, and accommodating for parents. And it gives us, of course, the end results in terms of the designs. That brings me to some of the key issues that the public are talking about. I wish Kenyans started engaging in deep conversation of CBC when it started. They're now coming in too late. The experts are coming in too late. They should have been there. I would have expected Manyaza and the rest. They've conducted that study in 2017 before, and they were all quiet coming in too late.
No.
Yes, I'm saying so. Experience, having worked in that space.
I covered those processes as early as 2016, 17, 18.
Well, we are where we are now. I think we are in grade 9. We are in grade 9. What do we do moving forward?
People spoke. The challenge was that it was never cascaded to the level of everyone else, especially the critical mass of parents.
But now, it is now open for conversation. I think we should move towards casting solutions, and solutions that protect the rights of learners, protect the interest of the country in terms of production of human resources, and also government to be able to sustain. Yes.
Has government been listening?
Yeah, government has been listening, to the best of my knowledge.
So why do we still have problems?
To the best of my knowledge, and allow me to explain. When the new administration came in, there was a presidential working party on education and reforms, which made a number of recommendations, including even domiciling the JS. We have a lot of issues about teaching in JS. It is not going to work away right now, but I think domiciling it in the current primary school and developing the comprehensive schools with the idea of improving quality and deploying human resource is a good solution, because if JS were domiciled in the current existing secondary schools, would be dealing with challenges of real cost in terms of fee structures and the rest. There are so many issues. That was the first cure. The next thing that we need to deal with is proper transition to the senior secondary. And to answer some of the questions which Kenyans are asking, like, of course, for example, do we review the guidelines? Yes. To what extent do you have the pathways? In fact, I agree with the recommendation of the ministry very strongly that each school must have at least 2 pathways, so that then the pathways are as much as possible available to the learners closer to the household. And that has to be done. Because why do we have a school?
Sorry, you agree STEM has to be offered at every institution?
Yes, it must be offered in every school.
And I asked you that question about
it must be offered in every school.
And
in fact,
human power.
In fact, some years we do have for sciences. For sciences, we've trained adequate number of teachers over the years. I think Manyaza allowed. We've trained over the years adequate teachers for maths and sciences. And in fact, when we talk of students getting E's, it is not that they're getting wasted. E is not a failed grade. And if there are many E's, it means...
What is the pass grade?
Yeah, and of course, in 844, in 844, all students are graded from E to A.
So
that is the range.
What is the pass mark according to NEC?
Is E.
Pass mark is E. E is an indication that you have attended class and finished Form 4. But then when you talk of... No, allow me to finish. Sammy, don't allow me to finish my intervention.
Finish quickly.
So that then, when you grade students and you find a subject where there are so many E's, it is about teaching. It is not about the subject. So, and here in Kenya, we have been mounting a program of strengthening teaching of maths and sciences. So we cannot just eliminate a subject and make it an option simply because of the high number of E's. Maths languages are foundational subjects that should be taught all through in the basic education. And the debate on mathematics should open up our eyes then for us as a country to strengthen the teaching of maths and probably reintroduce in the pathways. Those taking the STEM pathway, allow them to take pure maths. And those pursuing humanities and social sciences, arts and sports, get them a more soft and relevant maths, so that when you have lawyers, we have lawyers who are grounded in basic arithmetic, logics, and the rest. So I think in summary, Sam, from this show, there is need for the ministry to extend further consultation and further review and rationalize the curriculum.
Who do you want them to consult?
Of course, consult experts.
Who have been writing to them?
Consult experts.
Who have been writing to them?
Convene them. Consult experts.
So, Dr. Manyasa, why do you want to stop?
Education,
it's okay,
education is always expert-driven and driven using data.
That's okay.
And now we need
Dr.
to evaluate.
Manyasa, you wanted to stop Mheshimiwa Sosion. Why?
Yes, because Mheshimiwa is deliberately forgetting things that have happened while he was around and seeing. So several things. One, it's not like people have not been speaking about this CBC and how it is being implemented. We have been speaking. We told Magoha when he was running around that please stop, do the CEO's job, let sub-county people do their work. He didn't listen.
He was doing the inspector's job.
We have spoken when we said, please let us not go the comprehensive school way. Why? Because if today we moved all the junior school teachers into our current secondary schools, we will not have teacher shortage at that level. And we will not have teacher shortage in primary. That decision was political. It was based on interest in money by primary schools, and it was based on some misguidance to NAT that primary school teachers are the NAT members, and therefore having more of them will make NAT stronger. I don't know at what point NAT stopped being the Kenyan National Union of Teachers and became Primary School Teachers Union. That was a misguidance, and that informed the clamor to have comprehensive school and therefore have more teachers in primary. If we were to, because to make a primary school teach junior was more costly than to make secondary school teach junior. You have seen the features that were in the news the other day of some so-called mobile lab in a classroom. So you have a few test tubes hidden in a drawer in a classroom, and when one class needs to use, they have to come and disrupt learning in this classroom to get those few equipments to go and teach. Those schools are so far away from being capable of preparing learners for senior. So far away. I don't know how much investment we're going to need to be able to make these so-called comprehensive schools capable of offering effective junior school education and therefore be able to prepare learners for senior school. That is where our biggest problem is. The Presidential Working Party did what it did. It made some egregious mistakes, and I don't want us to be married too much to what it proposed. We have made mistakes and gotten here. We've had 2.5 years of this government. If it was listening, we would be on a different trajectory in this sector. We will be on a different trajectory in the sense that the monies that we keep spending, yes, granted, the government of Kenya allocates the highest percentage of its budget to education. And that is a fact. So that makes it harder for anyone to say allocate more, because we're already allocating the highest. But if we removed politics from important education decisions and made those decisions in the interest of the child, to say that every school cannot offer STEM, like Mwalimu is saying here, Mheshimiwa, you can't tell me, and I can give you names, it's just that I can't. A school that has no TSC teacher in STEM.
Then it is not a school.
It is offering...
It's not a school.
Yeah, but...
If a school does not have maths teacher, if that school does not have language teachers,
so
it is not a school.
Yeah, but your government is running them
but
as
I
schools.
don't think this is...
So please allow me to
some of the data are not
finish.
If not, I can give you names off camera. I'll give you names.
Then it's not a school.
Of public schools which are running up to Form 4. The head teachers have to hire teachers on board of management to teach math, to teach chemistry, to teach physics. They don't have, because you have, they have a maximum of 5, in a school of 500 learners, 5 TSC teachers and 10 BOM teachers. Yeah. And out of those 5, there's no STEM. So if you're telling me those schools should offer STEM, and there are many, you're being unfair to Kenyan children. You're going to put children into a tunnel that leads them to nowhere. They have no lab, they have no teachers. Even these recent teachers that the government hired for STEM, they are in primary schools. Okay. If they were being hired for these sub-county schools.
They're in JS.
Yeah, they're in JS.
To use the right word.
Those JS are not...
in JS.
Yeah, they are not going to
host... It is a learning level.
They are not going to host senior.
Okay.
So you are taking them from there
you
to
said
senior schools that
JSS
have
are domiciled in primary schools. You said that, right?
JS, it's now called junior school, not junior secondary.
Domiciled in the primary school.
That's domiciled in the primary, and the model will be
two quick things.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that we have in Kenya in education are people in important positions who swing like pendulums on important matters. So that what is convenient is what you say at that point. Convenient either for politics or for your monetary interests. Junior school is not functioning. We are building guidelines to senior school that is heading to a disaster if we do not do two quick things. One, we need to set up a body to oversee implementation of CBC so that that body can be able to coordinate with the universities to be able to produce people who are going to teach in these subjects. We need to be coordinating with the TVET. We need to be coordinating with the current senior school leadership so that we open. Because what is happening right now is that we are providing daily solutions and not planning for the full course. people are already talking about reviewing a system that has not been fully implemented. Okay. We deviated from the CBC framework. We had a CBC framework that was well thought out.
All right, Daktari. Now, Moriah, I want to close with you on where we go from here. Because, again, despite all the challenges, a decision will have to be made, and it affects the learner for the rest of their lives.
Some CBC is a process, it's not an event. We have been having a national assessment from grade 4, which we contributed 20% to KIPSEA, that is in grade 6. Then we had an assessment in grade 5, which contributed 20% again to KIPSEA in grade 6. Then we had KIPSEA, which came with 60%. That makes 100% of the primary school work, which again will be downgraded to produce 20% to be taken to grade 9 KGCSEA. So when we say that we are headed in a disaster, already the curve is there. The parents have these results, the school have these results, the NEC has these results on the portal. We can even predict.
You believe they're going to guide on the decision on the pathway?
Yes, because we have been seeing the performance.
Who has that data?
The parents.
The parents have the data?
The exam was done from, is a school-based exam assessment. Actually, it's not an exam, it's a school-based assessment. So the parents have this data. Why are we talking about the portfolios? Because this portfolio carries the information of the learner.
What I'm asking is the data standard?
The data standard because everyone...
Meaning, if you say, I don't know, I see the grading is meeting expectations, exceeding expectations.
And all learners have met expectations. In fact, a majority have exceeded.
How do you standardize that to
that mean wajinga waliisha Kenya?
A decision that has national implications?
Where were you?
Now, let me
let me explain why I'm asking this question. Yes. If excuse me, Mheshimiwa Suseni, your mic is on. If you're saying that all those assessments have been done and the parents have the data, remember, beyond choosing a pathway, there's placement. There's what will take you to Alliance Senior Secondary, and there's what will take you to, I can't guess the senior secondary in your area, the sub-county senior school in your area.
Yes.
So is it standard to an extent that it is going to be fair that you don't have people fighting for space unnecessarily?
Let me finish, because this placement will happen on around 3 pillars. The first pillar is on achievement. Achievement is what we used to call competition in 844. So this achievement...
What quota would that contribute, if you know?
I don't know the quota, but I know it will have a significant impact because you will not join the best school in quotes if at all you're not performing.
So already there are best schools?
Between me and you, know there is a best school.
and is this, Sam, even as we close this,
even as
we are going to have competition for the so-called national schools, which the ministry is now abolishing. To go to Alliance Senior School, Mangu Senior School, Nairobi Senior School, there will be a competition. Unfortunately, as we speak now from the results is saying, every learner has exceeded expectations. And therefore, all learners should be able to go to where they want to go and join.
Okay, finish. What is that you wanted to say?
Because I've only talked about one pillar. The second pillar will be on personality and the interest. Because every learner will be given 3 tracks where they can thrive, not survive. Because we have been surviving in 844 in high schools because you do not even know why you are choosing subjects. You're either choosing the subject because you hate the teacher or you like the teacher or you hate the subject or you're not performing at it.
That's quite subjective, yeah?
It's not. I was there.
Personality assessment is not subjective.
Personality assessment, what we'll do,
okay, sorry, we are out of time. It's 8:02 and we need to close the conversation. What is clear here, we'll reconvene this panel in not so long. We'll come back to thrash out some of those issues, especially that will guide the transition. I have no time, Mheshimiwa Suseni. I have to thank you so much for coming. Kennedy Achesa, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, and Joseph Moriah for making time for us for this conversation. Still many pending questions, and we hope that all of us can work towards making it better, because this is the curriculum of the Republic of Kenya. Whether it succeeds or fails, it has consequences on the country. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again some other time. Bye for now.